Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 12-team PPR mock draft from the 4th overall spot using FantasyPros Draft Wizard. The roster positions for today's mock are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. But before we could do a nice deep dive, Michael Phelps style, into this mock draft, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into this 12-team PPR mock draft from the 4th overall spot. Now, we have gotten a bunch of requests in the comments to do best ball drafts, which I am going to do in live stream form in the next coming week. So the draft begins here with Christian McCaffrey, CD Lamb, and Tyreek Hill. I think this is going to be a very normal start to a lot of fantasy football drafts this year. Now, there are going to be some drafts that are inherently more running back heavy, that are inherently kind of stuck in the old ways to me in a 3 wide receiver start, 1 flex league. I think with the first 4 or 5 picks, unless you want to take Christian McCaffrey, which I think is acceptable, right? If you want to take McCaffrey, I think the rest of the picks should be wide receiver. I feel very confident in going with a wide receiver at this pick, and it is between Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, or Amon-Ra St. Brown. To me, the pick is going to be Justin Jefferson. Now, some people will worry about the fact that J.J. McCarthy didn't necessarily have a huge list of videos that you can watch where it's like, wow, like you throw the highlight tape on, right? And your Johnson gets erect instantly, right? It's not that with J.J. McCarthy, right? He was on a Michigan team that was loaded to the gills. They had an excellent offensive line. They had great wide receivers, great running backs, right? Basically everything possible for J.J. McCarthy to succeed. So I am far from a J.J. McCarthy stan, and I'm far from someone that believes that J.J. McCarthy is a guaranteed answer in Minnesota. But what I do know is that J.J. McCarthy is a good enough quarterback to force feed the rock to Justin Jefferson. I know that there are some contract negotiations going on right now. Justin Jefferson wants the big bag. Ultimately, I think the Vikings give it to him, so I'm not really worried at all. Again, I think even with J.J. McCarthy or Mono Man Sam Darnold under center, Justin Jefferson's one of the best receivers in the NFL, and I don't think you need the best quarterback in the NFL for Justin Jefferson to succeed. I mean, we've seen it with Kirk Cousins, and maybe J.J. McCarthy is just Kirk Cousins 2.0. After Justin Jefferson, we see Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, Puka Nacua, Garrett Wilson, and Brandon Ayuk. I do definitely think while leagues are pushing more towards being wide receiver heavy in the first round, I would be shocked in a lot of the more casual leagues if just 3 running backs go in the first round, even with a league setup with 3 wide receivers where it's very advantageous to take the wide receiver early. I still feel like 4 or 5 is going to be pretty normal. So second round opens with Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, Marvin Harrison Jr., Devontae Adams, Kyron Williams, Saquon Barkley, Devin 2 Chains, and Drizzy Drake London. So we're back up on the clock here. Best wide receivers available are Chris Olave, Mike Evans, DJ Moore, Deebo Samuel, Nico Collins, Jalen Waddle. At running back, Travis Etienne, Rashad White, Josh Jacobs, Isaiah Pacheco. All the quarterbacks and all the tight ends are available. Now, this year, unlike years prior, you don't have to take a tight end in the first round. In a lot of leagues, you don't even have to take a tight end in the second round to get the number 1 tight end right now coming off the board, who is Sam Laporta. Quarterbacks, depending on the league, there are obviously going to be those leagues where, you know, there's a million running backs in the first round and someone's willing to take Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes in the first or second round. But I think in a lot of leagues, you're going to be able to get that top of the charts, that elite quarterback in the third round. And if your opinion is Josh Allen's the number 1 guy, he might be there for you. Same thing goes with Sam Laporta at tight end. So to me, it's either running back or wide receiver here. Travis Etienne, best running back available. Best wide receiver is Chris Olave. And let me tell you, it feels absolutely disgusting to me to take Chris Olave in the second round. I've already made a video about this. I don't think Chris Olave is some garbage talent, but with Derek Carr under center, it feels kind of gross. Now, to me, it also feels kind of gross to have to take Travis Etienne in the second round. I know that based upon ADP, Josh Jacobs is not a second round guy, but Josh Jacobs, Pacheco, Henry would be at the top for running back. I think I'm going to like the receiver that's available in the third round. If I don't like the wide receiver, then you know what I'm going to do? I'm probably just going to draft a tight end. So I'm fine taking Josh Jacobs here. We have seen Josh Jacobs be at the pinnacle of fantasy football, not just 8,000 years ago, just a couple of years ago in Las Vegas. Now, I understand he's not going to get that crazy Las Vegas workload, but A.J. Dillon might be gone. They do have another running back behind Josh Jacobs, Marshawn Lloyd, but I think that Josh Jacobs is still incredibly legit. I think he has great pass-catching prowess. I think he can run great in between the tackles, and with the Green Bay Packers having the ability to run up the score in games, I think Josh Jacobs is fine in the back half of the second round. Some people will be like, Nick, that's crazy. Josh Jacobs, you probably could have got him in the third round. Well, he was the player, in my opinion, that I felt the most confident in, so I went with him in the second round. After Josh Jacobs, Chris Olave, Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Allen, Travis Etienne, Mike Evans, and Nico Collins. So just as I predicted, Mystic Notorious here, Sam Laporta is available. So to me, it's between either DJ Moore or Sam Laporta. I think a lot of people are going to be nervous about DJ Moore this year because they bring in Keenan Allen, they bring in Rome Odunze in the NFL draft. Now, I think it's very possible that Rome Odunze starts slow, and I also think it's very possible that Keenan Allen is knocking on the door of the age hump and he is going to fall off a cliff like Humpty fucking Dumpty off of the wall, right? He's going to fall off the top rope, Randy Orton style, and I think that DJ Moore, the best wide receiver on this team, I think Caleb Williams has the pedigree to take DJ Moore over the top to be a top 10, a top 8 guy, and maybe even a top 5 wide receiver because I think DJ Moore has that much talent. He has been kind of bent over a table by the quarterbacks that he's had in Carolina, in Chicago so far, but I think DJ Moore could have a humongous season this year. I like the running backs, but in a 2 running back start league with 3 wide receivers and a flex, you could reasonably be starting 4 wide receivers a week. I do think that it is a little bit overkill to draft a running back in this spot. I do like Sam Laporta, but ultimately with how the tight ends are this year, if I want a tight end in the 6th round, I will probably like a tight end there that I feel very confident in too. It's not just like, oh, I think they have high upside. No, like a guy like Dalton Kincaid, I feel like could win you your league. I feel like he could be the tight end 1 in Baltimore. Tight end 1 overall in Baltimore and Buffalo is what I meant to say, because Stephon Diggs is not there anymore, and I think Dalton Kincaid has a lot of skill. Now, Dawson Knox is going to be used, but I still think Dalton Kincaid is great, but we're making the pick, and that is going to be Wiki DJ Moore. Again, I do buy into the hype of the Chicago Bears. I buy into Caleb Williams being able to give this guy the rock. I believe he is the wide receiver 1 on this team, and I believe deep down inside of him, he has that league-winning upside. I really do think he's an excellent wide receiver. After DJ Moore, Deebo Samuel, Stephon Diggs, Malik Neighbors, Sam Laporta, Jalen Hurts, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, Cooper Kupp, Derrick Henry, DK Metcalf, Rashad White, Tank Dell, Zay Flowers, and James Cook. Very typical. Besides... Actually, never mind. This has gone completely normal. I was going to say Jalen Hurts being the quarterback 1 off the board, but Josh Allen went in the 2nd round. Laporta tight end 1, Kelce tight end 2. Now, we didn't get to talk about Mr. Trey McBride. I know that they drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., but if you look at that wide receiver core, if you look at that weapons core, it is terrible, right? It's like the fucking starting pistol in Call of Duty. It's not very good unless you pack a punch it and turn into the Mustang and Sally, right? It's just not going to do it. Their wide receiver core is mid at best outside of Marvin Harrison, and Trey McBride could easily be the number 2 and will easily be the number 2 target on this team, I believe heavily in Kyler. So if you wait till the 4th round to get a tight end, if you are able to get a guy like Trey McBride, I would be excited about that. Again, in a 3 wide receiver league, I am more likely to punt the tight end position, Pat McAfee style, right? Again, I'm not saying that that is a stone cold rule entering into drafts. I don't think you should have any rules entering into the draft, right? You want to make sure that you can zig when people are zagging. You don't want to put yourself in a box. I talk about this a bunch, so if you've been watching the videos for a while, you've probably heard this spiel already. But you don't want to trap yourself in a box of thinking, oh, I need to draft a running back in the second round. And then what happens if you hate the running backs there? Then you reach, and then you feel like an idiot. So I like McBride a decent amount. Best receivers, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, T. Higgins, Christian Kirk. Running backs, Isaiah Pacheco, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, Trey McBride at tight end. So while normally I probably would pass on running back here, I'm a big Joe Mixon guy. Looking at these receivers, I like Amari Cooper in the 5th round. I like T. Higgins in the 5th round. So for me, I would feel a lot more comfortable drafting either Isaiah Pacheco or Trey McBride here. I think a lot of the times in a 3 wide receiver league, I would probably go so heavy on wide receiver. So we'll do something a little bit different here. And we'll go with Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco is a guy who I think could finish top 5 at running back. He is on the best team in the National Football League. They showed last year at the end of the season he can catch passes. And Jerick McKinnon's probably not going to be back, which points even further towards that. He is the clear best running back on this team. The upside is immense. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs might fucking sleepwalk through the season again and then just win the Super Bowl, but I really do like the upside that Isaiah Pacheco possesses. I don't really worry too much about bye weeks, by the way. The only positions you need to worry about with bye weeks are quarterbacks and tight ends, because if you draft 2 quarterbacks, which is something that I typically do not do, drafting 2 quarterbacks on the same bye is stupid. Same thing goes with tight ends. So after Isaiah Pacheco, Joe Mixon, Lamar Jackson, Amari Cooper, T. Higgins, Alvin Kamara, and Kenneth Walker III. Keenan Allen, I do think he's over the hump. I wouldn't say you're crazy for selecting him at this pick, right? While I wouldn't personally do it because I do think eventually Rome Odunze is going to take over, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you are a complete and utter buffoon for taking him. I'm not going to do it. I get the argument for taking him. I'm just not going to do it here. Christian Kirk's a guy that I was kind of nervous about a couple weeks ago. I'm starting to warm up on him a little bit, but I'm still not scorching hot. I'm not on fire on him. I like Aaron Jones, but again, drafting 3 running backs in this scenario would be kind of crazy. So I think we're just going to go with Trey McBride, the falling value. Trey McBride was a waiver wire darling last season. You picked him up off the waiver wire, and this man was basically Sidney Sweeney, right? Beautiful, except for Trey McBride doesn't have some massive honkers. So Trey McBride on the Arizona Cardinals again. I get the Arizona Cardinals team. You can kind of sniff them through the screen. They're a little bit stinky offensively, right, on paper. But Kyler's good enough, and I think they're to be able to move the ball effectively enough for Trey McBride to have a solid season. It would not surprise me if Dalton Kincaid outscored him. It wouldn't surprise me if Mark Andrews outscored him. But in the 5th round, if I get a guy that I could see being the tight end number 1, and he's the tight end 3 off the board, I don't view that as that crazy. Especially when I feel like Sam Laporta, Travis Kelce, and McBride should be going in a much closer spread than they did here, right? Laporta, the 308, then Kelce at the 312. But then you have to wait all the way up until the 504 to get Trey McBride. After McBride, we see Aaron Jones, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, Christian Kirk, Ramondre Stevenson, David Montgomery, Dalton Kincaid, Harry McLaurin. The 6th opens with Zamir White, George Pickens, CJ Stroud, Mark Andrews, Anthony Richardson, James Conner, DeAndre Swift, and Rashee Rice. I am a big Chicago Bears guy this season. Again, outside of kind of Keenan Allen, I love Odunze. I love DJ Moore. I like Cole Kmet. I like Caleb Williams. But DeAndre Swift, something smells fishy with this guy, man. Something just feels wrong. He did not perform well at all in Philadelphia. He still has the pedigree, yes, but is he even the best pure runner on that team? And by pedigree, I mean, like, certain people take it different ways. I think he can catch passes well. I think he can run well. I think he's good enough to be the RB1 on this team, but is he good enough to be a workhorse running back on this team? Probably not. He doesn't have the profile of a workhorse running back. They have other running backs on the team. So I think taking DeAndre Swift in the 6th round, like, sure, if that's your first running back, you load up on wide receivers, maybe draft a tight end, fine. But in this scenario, it's like, why the fuck are you drafting DeAndre Swift when we already have Devin 2 Chains and Bijan Robinson? Like, that's just a little bit stupid. So we're back up on the clock here, not even looking tight end. We already have McBride. We're not going bully tight end here. We are going to draft either a running back, wide receiver, or maybe we draft a quarterback. I do love me some Joe Shiesty. Seems like people are kind of sleeping on him as the quarterback 7. But when you look at ranking the top 5 at quarterback just entering into the season, right? Everyone's going to have Josh Allen. They're going to have Mahomes. They're going to have Jalen Hurts. Those are kind of the top 3 guys. Then 4 or 5, you could argue Lamar, Anthony Richardson, DJ Stroud. There's a lot of guys you could argue. You could argue Joe Burrow. I know Dak Prescott is kind of frustrating because he always chokes away in the playoffs. I know Cowboys fans get mad when I make jokes about the Cowboys. Like, Nick, you're a Dolphins fan, you cocksucker. The Dolphins are terrible. I know. I've been alive for 25 years. I turned 25 yesterday as you guys are watching today's video, so happy birthday to me. I have not seen the Dolphins win a playoff game my whole entire life. It's sad. I like Dak Prescott, the quarterback, but he appears to just go a little bit limp dick in the playoffs. But, at least the Cowboys get to the playoffs every year. The Dolphins barely ever make the playoffs. So hopefully we can be better this year. But again, I have a lot of hope for the Dolphins, but this is a mock draft, not a Nick sucks off the Dolphins podcast. You got to check out my OnlyFans for that one. So we're back up on the board here. Tony Pollard is banned for me. I'm not fucking touching Tony Pollard. Get away from me. Calvin Ridley, Chris Godwin, Jaden Reed, all available. Jordan Addison. I have not drafted Chris Godwin once on Best Ball, Underdog, Fantasy. Link in the video description. I have not drafted him once on any of these mock drafts. I get the appeal, but to me, maybe he's just not that guy anymore. Like, I didn't see much out of him last year. Now, again, maybe people will be like, oh, he'll be more involved, blah, blah, blah. Playing more in the slot. I'm slotting him off my board right now. I just don't like that. I really like Calvin Ridley. We kind of always take Calvin Ridley in this range. We're probably going to end up doing it again. Shout out to Will Levis. You know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. That video on Twitter. Will Levis got the hammer. We might have to start calling him Big Dick Willie. Big Willie Will. Big Willie Will Levis. Calvin Ridley. I can't quit this guy, dude. I can't quit him. I'm like a crack addict for him. I was like, oh, I'm not going to draft Calvin Ridley next year. Like, oh, he broke my heart. And then I'm just back buying in. I think he's still good. I think he had one of the most quiet, solid seasons ever. People are like, Nick, he shit the bed for fantasy. Yeah, this guy had over 1,000 receiving yards. He had 8 touchdowns and 76 receptions. He had 136 targets. He could easily do that in Tennessee this year. So I'm going to go ahead and draft Calvin Ridley. I know you got burnt last year, drafted him super early. But now you get him in the 6th, the 7th round. It feels a little bit more comfortable. And I'm hoping Jaden Reed is back for us or Jordan Addison. I still am interested in Joe Burrow. But again, with how your team's constructed in a 3 wide receiver league, I don't necessarily feel the need to draft Joe Burrow here. What I really like, Jordan, love me tender, love me sweet. I like Caleb Williams. I'm fine starting a guy like Jared Goff every single week. Now, comparing apples to oranges, like Jared Goff is not in the same level as Burrow, but is he way off? Like, Jared Goff is way better than people give him credit for. So after Calvin Ridley, Raheem Mostert, Tony Pollard, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, Javonte Williams. So I've noticed really the first 3 rounds this season so far in a lot of these drafts I've been doing are very barren at the running back position. It's people sometimes triple tapping wide receivers, right? And once the 4th round opens up, the floodgates are open. It's like when your girlfriend watches it, she's like, oh my gosh, you're watching Nick? And then she just gets wet. It's like fucking, I almost said Niagara Falls would have been the joke there, but I almost said Mount Vesuvius. And again, I know that no females are getting wet watching this. Even my fiance, she would not enjoy listening to me talk about football. So Calvin Ridley, Raheem Mostert, Tony Pollard, Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, Javonte Williams, and Kyle Pitts. So we're back up here, and I think we already read that off, but I think we're going to go receiver. Normally we go Jaden Reed. I love Jaden Reed. I love the skill. I love the talent. Going to be huge. But I do kind of buy the narrative that maybe Jaden Reed gets dethroned again by Christian Watson. Like, maybe if Watson's able to stay healthy, maybe he's better than Jaden Reed. So I have not jumped ship on Jaden Reed. Not even close. I'm not even moving towards the extra boats that are on the side of the boat. What are those called? Like the life rafts or whatever. I'm just a little bit more cautious now, but again, I still like him. But we're going to go with Jordan. Oh, we would have went Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, right? But we already have Minnesota receiver, and his name is Justin Jefferson. So we're diving back in on the boat. I said I was a little bit more cautious, and I am. I still love what I saw last year. It seems like him and Jordan Love have that 5G LTE connection. They got that peanut butter to jelly connection. They got that Shaq and Kobe connection. They got that Tom Brady to Randy Moss connection. So I love me some Jaden Reed. I think this guy is an incredibly talented player. But again, there is still some worry in the back of my brain. The fucking devil versus the angel on the shoulder. The angel's like, oh man, Nick, you remember how great Jaden Reed was last year? And the devil's like, Nick, Christian Watson, you remember you liked him too, didn't you? Didn't you, you asshole? You told everyone to draft Christian Watson last year, and they all got bent over a table, Nick, you fucking idiot. That's what actually happened, though. Jaden Reed, George Kittle, Greg Kittle, Evan Ingram, Brock Bowers, Chris Godwin, Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright? That's the Dolphins running back. Jalen Warren. Hollywood Brown, Kyler Murray, Jordan Addison. 8th opens with DeAndre Hopkins, Zach Moss, Xavier Worthy, Jackson Smith in the Jigba, Ezekiel Elliott, Brian Thomas Jr., Joe Burrow, and Dickie Dak Prescott. Looking at the board, this is an important thing to do. You pull up the board and look at who is a quarterback or not. Team next to me, Stafford F150, not have a quarterback. So it's very likely that by the time I get to pick again, he has 2 picks, he takes a quarterback. If he's smart, computer's smart, they don't take a quarterback here, and they take one in the 9th round because none of these people are going to take a quarterback. Is the computer, though, and even in your regular at-home league, there are buffoons in your league, so you never really know. So, if I don't take Joe in love, if I don't take Jordan, love me tender, love me sweet, he probably gets taken. We're to get that stack. Now, I don't think attacking stacks is necessarily like my goal of a redraft league. In best ball, in order to win those tournaments, you have to do it. In redraft, you don't have to. It adds some added risk every week because if Jordan Love shits the bed, guess what? Jaden Reed probably isn't going to go out there and have a great day. He might even have a really bad day. On the upside, Jordan Love is a great game. Jaden Reed also probably has that huge performance. So we're going to go with Jordan Love here. I have really bought into Jordan Love. I believe in what I saw last season. I don't think he's some one-year wonder, one-hit wonder. Normally, he gets taken at pick 69. Very nice, I like. So we got some nice value at pick number 93. I don't really know how many people are willing to take Jordan Love at pick 69, though. I probably wouldn't. After Jordan Love, we see Caleb Williams, Austin Eckler, Ladd McConkey, Cortland Sutton, Tajay Spears, and Trey Benson. I was hoping we would get Tajay Spears, if I'm being honest with you. I like Tajay Spears. I don't know who I don't like. We already talked about it. I don't like Tony Pollard. So that's kind of a no-brainer there. So now we already have our quarterback. We got our tight end. We have the whole fucking squad filled out. Normally, you don't have to do this. You could start drafting bench guys before you draft your number 2 running back. You don't have to draft a quarterback or a tight end this range. You can continue to wait. Like I said, Jaden Daniels, I don't know if I'd be confident, full-blown, erect, excited under the table to play Jaden Daniels game 1. But based on the rushing upside, like if you drafted him and Stafford, you play Stafford week 1, like that's pretty solid. Now, Nick Chubb on this team, I like, because if Nick Chubb ends up being a colossal, a monumentous bust, he comes back, he's not the same guy, which is very possible. That's why he's going in the 9th round. It doesn't matter too much because I already got Jacobs and Pacheco, right? And if Nick Chubb, maybe they ease him back in just a tip, a couple weeks, comes back, week 5, oh my gosh, that's 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, the guy I remember. It's like, wow, I just drafted the RB12 in the 9th round. With the running backs we have, that would be sick. Now, if Nick Chubb ends up flaming out, having an awful season because he got hurt last year, which would be not a crazy outcome, right? Now, I'm as much of a doctor as Johnny Sins, but that's not a crazy outcome. On a team that I would feel needed more running back help, right? If I waited on running back, I didn't have Jacobs and Pacheco, so I have some other running backs I don't trust as much, I'm probably taking a more safe pick. A nice putt in, right? Whereas I'm trying to chip it in from the sand trap using a putter. That's the Nick Chubb shot. But I'm going to take that shot because of the upside he possesses. Again, fully understanding that this pick could be awful, the worst pick I make in the whole draft. But as you get deeper into the draft, you have to understand that you can't be just wrapping condoms around your team all the time. You have to take the risk, and I think that's the deep shot that could end up being a fucking half-court shot. Shout out to Stephen Curry. Shout out to Caitlin Clark. After Nick Chubb, Jonathan Brooks, Keon Coleman, Brian Robinson Jr., Tyler Lockett in my pocket skirt, Devin Singletary, Christian Watson, Chase Brown, Gus Bus Edwards, Zach Charbonnet, Jerome Ford F-150, Curtis Samuel, Chuba Hubbard, AG, Antonio Gibson, Adonai Mitchell, Jameson Williams, and Blake Corum. What do we think about Blake Corum, friends? You move him up the board? Do we start aggressively attacking him? Or do we slow down a little bit and be like, a lot of the talk about Kyron, maybe people are really getting their panties in a bunch, and then Kyron's fine for a couple of weeks from now when they're doing their other practices, and Kyron's back being a second round pick. That's very possible. So if I was doing a lot of best ball drafts, I wouldn't just be aggressively slamming Blake Corum every single draft, because he might just end up as the backup on a team where Kyron's toting the rock at a very high rate. So we got 3 running backs. We're going to need another one eventually, but I think now is when we just rapidly click the wide receiver button. Jakobi Meyers is a guy that I think has so much talent. We saw it in New England. We saw it in Las Vegas. This is a guy that has top 12 games. He had top 12 games last season, right? He scored twice in the season finale. Let's pull up the game log over here. Game log. Never mind. I was about to insult Fantasy Pros because it is kind of hard to use at times, but this is a guy, 10, 12, 10, 13, 10 targets, right? This is a guy that can get a lot of targets. He can score a couple touchdowns, right? This guy's good. How good is the quarterback situation here? How much do they try to run the rock? We'll see. I do think on paper they're going to be more of a run-heavy team, but Jakobi Meyers is good. It's just hard for me to really believe in the team as a whole. Now, I love their head coach. I love him. No diddy. But I do definitely don't necessarily feel like he's more of a safer pick, like a reliable pick, whereas I'm kind of hunting for more upside here. And Mike Williams is straight up upside. This guy is a glass cannon, literally. He gets hurt, fucking tying his shoes. He has to wear Skechers or I think Skechers make real shoes, but the Velcro shoes, because he gets hurt tying his shoes, right? He wraps his finger around and loses the circulation, and then they have to amputate. Okay? Mike Williams, really good when healthy. Number 2 on the Jets behind Garrett Wilson. I like the upside. A lot of the reports from Robert Saleh, aka Xerxes from 300, sounds like Mike Williams will be good to go pretty soon. So after Mike Williams, Romeo Doubs, Jakobi Meyers, Jake Ferguson, Rico Dowdle, David Njoku, and Marshawn Lloyd back up on the clock here. And I think we're taking that double shot on wide receiver. I like Josh Downs. They did just draft Donnie Mitchell, AD Mitchell. To me, I think Josh Downs is better than AD Mitchell. But I'm not going to say that with my chest puffed out like fucking Popeye the Sailor Man. I wasn't eating my spinach before this recording. Very plausible that is not the case. But again, these are just assumptions that we're making in May. And you know what they say about assumptions? They make an ass out of you and me. And in May, there's not as much stone cold facts at this point in the offseason. Brandon Cooks, I mean, he's good. Like, he's a good player. But Dak just force feeds CeeDee Lamb like he easily could. We really see that happening again. I do see that happening again, probably. So, I do kind of realize that we are heavily leveraged on the Packers, right? Nick, you also got Josh Jacobs, who's on the Packers. Guess what? If the Packers were a shitty offense, you shouldn't do this, right? You shouldn't be like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I got Jaden. I got Geno Smith, Kenneth Walker, and DK Metcalf, right? That's not exciting. That's not sexy, right? That's not the blonde chick's name. I don't know her name. The girl that was on the swimsuit thing back in the day. She was like the girl that's in like the GTA 5 picture. You know what I'm talking about? But I don't think that's actually her. I don't remember her name off the top of my head. Too old to like, I wasn't cranking off to some magazines, but everyone knows what I'm talking about. Swimsuit model, early 2010, 2012. She's dating Justin Verlander. Don't know her name, though, off the top of my head. And people in the comments, you horny bastards who know what I'm talking about. Nick, you idiot! I know exactly who that is. Yeah. Packers are like her. Beautiful. So, and me. I'm also a beautiful man. So, we're back up on the clock here. Don't need a tight end. Don't need a quarterback. Just going to go receiver. I like Jahan Dotson. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. He was really good his rookie year. Really solid. I liked what I saw. Last year, 2 thumbs down. This year, maybe with Jaden Daniels, things get better. Again, in the late rounds right now, I'm just drafting guys I believe in. I believe that guy's good. I'm going to draft him. Again, he might get overtaken by fucking Luke McCaffrey, right? So I don't think that's going to happen. But you get what I mean, like in terms of targets. So we have to see. But I like Jahan Dotson. We're back up on the clock here. After we went with Jahan Dotson, we saw Ty Chandler, Kendre Miller, Dallas Goedert, Gabe Davis, Ravens, Khalil Shakir, Tyler Algier, Khalil Herbert, Josh Downs, Joshua Palmer, Rashid Shaheed, Roshan Johnson, 49ers, Brock Purdy, Dalton Schultz, and TJ Hawkinson. Back up on the clock here. I feel like we are now in the points where the running backs are essentially trash. Nick, I think J.K. Dobbins good. Some people do. I'm never drafting J.K. Like, I'm not getting excited about doing it. I'm going to draft Jaleel McLaughlin because I think he's actually good. And it seems like what Sean McPayton is saying is that this is going to be a running back battle. Swords style, right? And I think trial by combat, I think Jaleel McLaughlin might win that. Cole Kmet, Pat Freiermuth, Hunter Henry, Brandon Cooks, Jerry Jeudy, and Tua Tagovailoa. 2 bench spots left. Going to go 1 wide receiver, 1 running back to close things out. Demario Douglas is probably my favorite pick. Quentin Johnston, like if you're really going for the moonshot, Quentin Johnston has the moonshot potential because everyone was just gargling his balls coming out of the NFL draft. Great landing spot. And then the guy silent. I'm talking about literally not even a peep out of him. Does nothing last year. Actually, he does more than nothing because he sucked ass. But maybe he just needed that year, right? Back in the day, you guys remember, not back in the day, just a couple years ago, these receivers would come into the NFL and they would take things slow, right? They go to first base, then second base, right? It's not like they don't just, back in the day, and by back in the day, again, I mean like just a couple of years ago, right? These players, they weren't home runs right off the rip, right? They were getting first, right? And then get the second, the third, to home, and it would take the whole season, right? Sometimes they wouldn't even get home, right? Whereas now, these receivers are ripping the Band-Aid off, right? They're hitting a fucking grand slam first bat up. That's what happens nowadays. It's a little bit different. And again, like back in the day, like 10 years ago, it was a slow roll. Even just a couple years ago, it was a slow snail's pace, tortoise pace. But now they're coming out the gate hot. Again, if I'm doing a bunch of drafts, I'm just taking as many shots as possible late in the drafts with upside. Quentin Johnston could be the wide receiver number 1 in LA. He could be. He could be. And that's the shot I'm going to take. Again, could this pick crash and burn? Could this be an awful pick? Yes. This pick might be a fucking downed, plain, lost style. Maybe it's a great pick. We shall see. Again, if you're going to flame, Nick, your 13th round pick in May is terrible. You can shove one right up your butt, Al. Fuck you right where you breathe. I love that video so much. That is like one of my favorite videos of all time. You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. And it's not funny anymore because that was like 3 years old, but it's still funny to me. Quentin Johnston, Jared Goff, Jaden Daniels, Justin Herbert, Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen, Luke Musgrave, Trevor Lawrence, J.K. Dobbins, Darnell Mooney, DeJuan Johnson, Jalen Wright, Keaton Mitchell, Kirko Chains, Elijah Mitchell, Ray Davis, Troy Franklin. Final pick here. I'm running back, and it's not going to be A.J. Dillon because I would rather draft someone's grandma. Okay? That's who I'd rather draft because they might run faster than A.J. Dillon. Let's go with Bucket. Bucket Irvin, running back of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, rookie. He's good. And by like good, I mean like I think he's pretty clearly the running back 2 on the team. And I think if something was to happen to Rachaad White, knock on wood, he would be the guy. So that's about all the breakdown I got on Bucky Irving. 30 minutes plus into a video. I'm not going to sit here and do some crazy deep dive into him in May. But again, I do think he has the ability to take over if something was to happen to Rachaad White. So our backup on the board here. The strategy of drafting defenses is drafting the defense that has the not so hot opponent in week 1. So we're to check right now. The Kansas City Chiefs, technically they're the best available, but in week 1 they play the Ravens. So that is a fuck no, baby. We got the Dolphins. They're playing the Jaguars. Not the worst, not the best. We got the Bills playing against the Cardinals. We got the Steelers going up against the Falcons. The Saints going up against the Panthers. We're taking the Saints. I think the Panthers are going to be better, but I like the Saints defense. I think they're decent, and I think they're going to come out the gate a little slow, and they might finish slow, right? I don't think Bryce Young was the worst pick ever, right? I was on Team Bryce Young over CJ Stroud, but that Panthers offense isn't built like the 300 that took down those gazillion people, right? That's not what they're built like. They're built like a fucking JV squad. So now we get our kicker. We're going to take Evan McPherson, kicker of the Cincinnati Bengals. No kicker breakdowns in May, though. We're just going to take we'll take Jake Moody because he's the highest ranked kicker. We'll just go with that. So our team is complete. We get a B, 84 out of 100. We might have drafted too many Packers. But again, if it's on a good team, I'm fine doing it. If it's on the Panthers, if it's on like the Cardinals. Again, I like Kyler. I like Marvin Harrison, but I'm not drafting Kyler, Marvin Harrison, and James Conner. I think that's really stupid. I'm not drafting David Njoku, Nick Chubb, and Amari Cooper, and Deshaun Watson, right? That'd be crazy. So our team is Jordan, love me tender, love me sweet, Josh Jacobs, Isaiah Pacheco, Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, Trey McBride, Jaden Reed, Saints defense, Jake Moody, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Mike Williams, Jahan Dotson, Jaleel McLaughlin, Quentin Johnston, and Bucky Irving. If I drafted this team, I would be so excited. I got a quarterback that I think is top 5 upside. Got 2 running backs that I think could finish top 5. 2 wide receivers that I think could finish top 5. I've got a tight end I believe will finish top 3. And some solid options at wide receivers outside of Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore, Calvin Ridley, Jaden Reed, Mike Williams, Jahan Dotson. And then the moonshot on Quentin Johnston. So let me know down below in the comment section what you guys think about today's draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? I know people want me to do best ball drafts. We're going to do those live as the offseason goes along. I love you guys all so much. Hope you guys have a great rest of your guys' day. And we'll be back on Tuesday. Club going up on a Tuesday with another video. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen them already. Love you guys as always. Good boy.